but Japan scientists may include found an pioneering end to the nation's power turmoil. They are innovative a new technique how could alter the world power production. Though superior, a technique how revolves about a source that Japan has in wealth buried by the sea. The Japan by the government wants to burn up inflammable ice pack for power. A new kind of power world where are up to 2,800 billion cube meters of methane-bearing gas hydrates, a iced mix of water supply and nature methane, on to the Joint State Power Data Authority. Extensive reservoirs of the source are found wherever top pressures and low temperature unite, i.e. buried within heavy Arctic permafrost and by profound sea floors. So far, although no one is shut to creature capable to remove it commercially. Japan is hard. Among 2002 and 2017, it's by the government consumable about $1 trillion on study and growth, on to the Ministry of Power, Trading and Production. Where are two reasons the by the government wants to evolve the technique, says Ryo Matsumoto, Prof of Geology at the Gas Hydroxide Lab at Tokyo's Meiji College. Same at first is to save power asset. If they can utilize a national source they will growth his power safety. The other is how they are hard to reduction carbon sequestration dioxide emissions of fossil embers. Nature gas intake emits approximately part the sum of carbon sequestration dioxide how charcoal does. Since nature gas is a janitor resource of power, Japan wants to growth the ratio of nature gas utilized in the whole power pattern. Which is inflammable ice pack. Inflammable ice doesn't see how various of thing you might use to cool a cocktail party, but the resemblance stops where. These ice rhinestone conduct a wonderful number of nature methane gazette. It is alleged how 1 cube gauge of iced gas hydroxide contains 164 cube meters of methane. Conduct a matchstick to the ice and the gas ignites so how instead of smelting, it burns. The issue in gas hydrates is how the gas is difficult to remove. The at first move, yet, is to discover the hydrates. In Japan, how's not difficult? Japan is wealthy in reserves during its exceptional economical area on both of the West Silent Sea Party and on the East profit on the Japan Sea Party, says Matsumoto. Engineering personnel include so far concentrated on Nankai Hollow, a length, tight depressive 50 kilometers off the shore of center Japan, that had been heavily reviewed above lot year. At first production the crew installed the drilling ship, Chikyu, above a forming named the Dani Itsumai Hill how put 1,000 meters by the ocean, southward of the Japan town of Nagoya. To remove gazette, the hydroxide must at first be molten so how it separates in gas and water supply, says Dr. Koji Yamamoto, lead of the study team for box growth technique at MH21. The hydroxide melts if it is nudged out of its sustainability area, that can be reached by each increase the heat or decrease the blood pressure. Pump hot water supply by the sea floor to warmth the hydrates would need a lot of power, explains Yamamoto. We chose decompression as the largest efficient technique. The engineering personnel drilled a sow in the seabed and utilized a submerged pump to absorb water supply out of the sediments. As the water supply standard in the sediments tablet, the blood pressure tablet. The triggers the nearby gas hydrates to begin dividing, says Yamamoto. The water supply is unloaded in the ocean, and the released gas is piped to the shallow. Received nearer to Yamamoto's crew became the at first in the planet to remove nature gas of offshore gas hydroxide reserves. But his transactions was brief-lived. The enterprise was closed downward following a few days while grit got in the tube. Over the year, the crew done a other try. They built 2 manufacture wells and covered the tubular products in a specific resin to strengthen them versus grit invasion. One so was yet closed downward by grit but in the sum, the gas stored flow. We manufactured a lot of gas but we refuged found a safe decision for the grit issue still, says Yamamoto. Competition in China Japan, of year, is not the just nation in its eye on inflammable ice pack. Its old competing China is as well hoping to discover a comparatively pure replace for smog-producing charcoal. Following promise reserves were found in the southward China Sea in 2007, the nation effectively recovered offshore gas hydrates in May 2017. The joint state has recovered nature gas of hydrates blocked by the iced fenland of Alaska's polar hillside, but in its present excess of inexpensive slate gazette, where is less than stimulus where to put hard length period, yet, gas hydrates could include a drama effect on the world gas marketplace. A test mountain of inflammable ice at Shenhe region of the southward China Sea in Hainan, China, an inflammable ice mind of the region. In spite a quantity of technology hurdles yet possessing to be purified, Yamamoto remnant carefully upbeat. 20 year back, no believed how slate gas could be utilized as an power resource. Now it can. In the techniques we now include accessible, he's less than economic rather than imported nature gazette. But in the next, how could changing ecological effect? So which are the ecological risks of the technique? One opportunity is how production could destabilize the sea story and email sludge acrobatics downward the mainland hillside. In the lowest case script, an submarine landslip could flop a tsunami. Yamamoto says how the opportunity of the event is really cheap. Same gas hydroxide doesn't molten by himself, we requirement to use an foreign power resource. While we halt the power entry, the trial is automatic stable. The region Japan scientists are concentrated on is seismically busy, and the crew has as well spotted the scars of old landslides on the sea story. Yamamoto says they include aimed these issues by installation tracking devices about the testing region to discover sedimentation, enabling us to explore the continuing standard of hazard. Matsumoto is less than confident. If a calamity conducted location, we couldn't warranty how we'd be capable to monitoring it by stopping to squirt power or close downward the decompression trial. The hazard is high in Nankai Hollow since seismologists are precautionary of the opportunity of a megathrust quake during a few many decades. A megathrust quake occurs at devastating plateau boundaries, and is the largest strong of its type in magnitudes how can surpass 9. Gas leak? Carolyn Ruppel, head of the Joint State Geologic Examination's gas hydrates draft, says how a gas leakage on the sea story is hardly to reason a disaster. Human beings think it would conduct to enlarged methane concentrations in the ambience and intensify world heating. But we include found how methane released at the sea story, under a few 100 meters, really seldom makes it all the way up via the water supply kernel. Instead of, the methane dissolves in seawater and is consumption by bacteria, how convertible it to carbon sequestration dioxide. Ruppel points to testimony collected for the Deepwater Skyline oil shed in the Bay of Mexico in 2010. A really big sum of methane was released at the seabed. Teaching transferred out later established how the methane did not achieve the ocean-air interaction and was not injected in the ambience. How's not to say a methane leakage would be harmless, she adds. It could growth carbon sequestration dioxide concentrations in the sea. Moreover, though janitor rather than charcoal and petroleum, nature gas is yet a fossil gas how produces carbon sequestration dioxide while it undergoes burning. Verdant campaigners are worried how a new resource of inexpensive, plentiful nature gas might sluggish the acceptance of revolving technologies such as sunny and breeze force. Knittel hopes how nature gas could act as a jumper gas. In several ways renewable energy and nature gas are complements, with the dependability of nature gas can counter the alternation of renewable energy. The next before the year's tests, Yamamoto says, the Japan by the government was hoping to see business manufacture up and fleeing by the deceased 2020s. On to Yamamoto, it now looks as if the day will include to be put behind by on a 10 years since present expenses are too top to do gas hydroxide production commercially sustainable. His attention is not the economy, although same by the government's problem is to evolve the techniques, gather the information and ensure the data how individual companies will requirement. The mission statement to remove nature gas of hydrates is not fair on reduction power billing. He's a national power resource and for how cause he's really essential for Japan's next power safety.